All right, now we're moving on to another way of writing inequality, which is compound inequality. Compound inequality is when we join two inequalities together with the words and or the word or. So we join them together by these two words. So let's look at first and inequality, the and inequality first. What is the solution of this and this? Graph the solution. So this is pretty easy. What you want to do is just solve each inequality by itself. So let's solve this one first. Minus 1, 6 greater than 2, x. So divide by 2, 3 greater than x, or the way I wanted everything written, x first, x less than 3. All right, this one on the right. So divide by -3, divide by -3, x, and then what? Remember, when you divide by negative number, you switch the sign. So x greater than equal to -6. So it says to graph the solution. So we have an x less than 3. So that means open circle on 3, point to the left. And then we have this one, x greater than equal to -6. So close circle on -6, point towards the right. So and means where do they both overlap? So and means overlap. So where do they both overlap? It overlaps in this section here between -6 and 3. So what you could actually write is that the solution set is between -6 less than equal to x less than 3. So between -6 and 3, but include -6. Okay? All right. Let's have you try number 2. What is the solution? So graph it, write the compound in the and I guess inequality. So you have two inequalities. All right, here is the answer. 2 is less than equal to x less than 6. Let's look at this third one. This one is also an inequality because you can see that there are two inequalities and three equations like this. Essentially, what you are doing is just combining these kind of equations into one big one like that. And so then if you're not familiar with this type of way of writing inequality, you can essentially just split it apart. So what you would do is look at this as one inequality. So -1 less than 1/2 x minus 3. That is one inequality. And then the other one is this part. 1/2 x minus 3 less than 1. And then what's in between that is the and. So basically it's this inequality on the left and this inequality on the right. And then you can solve them separately and then graph it. But we're in honors and we really don't want to do that. We want to take some shortcuts. So I'm going to show you how to solve this in one big inequality. So to solve this means we need to get x by itself. We need to figure out what x is. So x is stuck in the middle. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of the thing that's farthest from x, which in this case is minus 3. So what we want to do is add 3. And now, instead of two sides of the equation, we have three sides in this inequality. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do it to all the sides. And in this case, there are 3 sides. So I got to do it to all 3 sides. So that means I need to add 3 to everything. So this is 2 less than 1/2 x less than 4. The last thing I need to do to solve for x is to multiply by 2 here. And then again, whatever I do to one side, I do it to all the sides. So 4 less than x less than 8. So this is the answer, and I do have a place to graph. So between 4 and 8 and don't include them. All right, and then really quickly, always flip the inequality sign when you multiply or divide negative numbers. So, good reminder. Now let's talk about OR. What's going to happen in OR is that you are not going to have a overlap of inequality or solution set. So basically, the two solutions, they're not going to point towards each other. Instead, they're going to point away from each other. So, or we have this one or this one. So what we're going to do again is we're going to solve them separately. So minus 7, k is greater than or equal to -1. And then here, minus 8, k is less than -5. And we graph this. So greater than or equal to -1, less than -5. Can you see how they're pointing in opposite directions? If somehow you solved it and then you end up with something like this, you know you did it wrong. If it says or, they shouldn't overlap. They have to point in opposite direction. Or if you end up seeing this, it's also wrong. It has to point in opposite directions. So please be careful. Now, how do you write this answer? You would basically just write this one or this one. Because there's no overlap, you cannot write it together. So some people also make this mistake. -5, right? They're looking at this, -5, greater than k. And then they write, what did they write? Greater than or equal to -1. They kind of forced it to all be in the same one. So they're basically saying there is such a number that is smaller than -5, but also greater than -1. Can you think of a number that's smaller than -5 and greater than -1? That is impossible. So you cannot write it like this. If you write it like this, you're saying there must be a number here that exists in both conditions, but that is impossible. So that is the definite wrong way to write this. So please be careful. All right, let's have you pause this video and try number 2. All right, so this one, w is greater than 8/7 or w is less than -3. Okay, let's do this one word problem. A student believes she can earn between $5,200 and $6,250 from her summer job. She knows that she will have to buy 4 new tires for her car at $90 each. She estimates her other expenses while she is working is $660. How much can the student save from her summer wages? Okay, so let's try to set up this question. So this one says, how much can the student earn from her summer wages is basically X, which is how much does she have left over from her earnings minus the expenses. So we kind of have to think about what is going on. So let's say X is how much she's gonna save after this summer is over. How much she saves depends on how much she's earning. She is earning between $5,200 to $6,250. And between, I believe, is not including the two ends. So we write less than, not less than or equal to. So from this wage, she's going to buy 4 new tires at $90 each. So she has to spend 4 tires at $90 each. So remember the two ends, $5,200 and $6,250, those are her income. And now we're going to subtract out the expenses. And then while she's working, she has to pay, I don't know, food or rent or something like that. And that costs $660. So again, she's going to spend out $660. And then whatever she has left over, so do a really quick calculation. we get 4180 less than x less than 5230. So she's going to earn between those two. Okay? So now let's go ahead and have you pause the video and solve 1, 3, and 4. 4 is a little bit tricky, so take your time and think through it. So go ahead and check your answer for 1 and 3. And then I'm going to kind of help you solve number 4. So number 4 says, before a chemist can combine a solution with other liquids in the laboratory, the temperature of the solution must be between 39 to 52 degrees C. The chemist places the solution in a warmer that raises the temperature 6.5 degrees C per hour. If the temperature is originally 0 degrees C, how long will it take to raise the temperature to the necessary range of values? So here's the question. How long would it take? So number of hours is going to be our answer. And we want that range of temperature to be between 39 to 52. So between 39 to 52, probably here. And then we want number of hours. We know that it takes, so we're starting at 0 degrees. And then we're adding 6.5 C per hour. So we're saying how long, which is the number of hours, is x. So it basically raises 6.5 degrees C per hour. And so 0 plus 6.5 x is going to get us to the final temperatures. So what we want to do is just divide everything by 6.5. And then that gives us between 6 to 8 hours. Now we're going to look at lesson 1.6. So in lesson 1.6, we're going to quickly review the absolute value equations and inequality. So absolute value is a way of determining the distance between two numbers. And as you probably have already known, that absolute value can only result in a positive number. Okay, so let's look at this question. What is the solution of absolute value a equals 5? So really the question is saying absolute value of what number will give me 5? What does a have to be so that when I put it in the absolute value, I can end up with a 5? Well, we know that it's 5. If you put 5 inside the absolute value, you're going to get 5. But it could also be negative 5, because anything that goes inside the absolute value will always turn it into a positive number. So a negative 5 is also possible. So then we can also just kind of combine these into saying that the answer is plus minus 5. Then what we want to remember is that in an absolute value question, most of the time there are two answers, because there are ways to make something positive by having it originally negative or having it originally positive. So so you have to kind of be careful on that. So I have kind of here a procedure to solve absolute value. The first is you always want to isolate the absolute value part. Isolate means get it by itself. So let's do that first. So let's look at this first example here. What is the solution of 3 absolute value x plus 2 minus 1 equals 8? So the first thing I said was isolate the absolute value. The absolute value is stuck in here. We want to get it by itself. So the first thing we want to do is add 1 on both sides, because that is the farthest away from absolute value. So we solve that first. The next thing we're going to do is get rid of the 3. So do not distribute. Absolute value is not a parentheses. You cannot distribute like that. Okay, so please be careful. Divide by 3. So absolute value x plus 2 equals 3. The next thing is step 2. Set it equal to positive and negative. Okay, so what I do here is I put two arrows like this or two lines like that, and then I take off the absolute value, but then I first make it exactly the same, but just without the absolute value. The second one is I write exactly the same x plus 2. So sometimes your teacher tells you to do something different, but I'm just going to tell you, just leave it exactly the same. And then on the right hand side, you change the sign. And then you solve. So x is 1, x is minus 5. So the answer is 1 or 5. A lot of times you do have to check the answer because you may not actually, one of them may not work, so you have to be careful. But a lot of times you don't have to check, but if you do, in the times that you do have to check, so like for example, this case, I'm going to double check. A lot of times you can just do it mentally, but whatever you do, you have to put it into the original equation to check. You cannot put it into this equation. I'm sorry. You cannot put it into this equation or this equation. Anytime after you have already changed the equation, it's not the original problem anymore, so then that's not a good place to check. So please be careful. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly check these two answers. X equals 1. So 3 times 1 plus 2 minus 1, does that equal 8? Okay, so 3 times 3 minus 1, so that's 9 minus 1 is 8. So that works. All right, second one. X equals minus 5. 3 times minus 5 plus 2 minus 1 equals 8. So this minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. I'm sorry, I forgot a question mark there. So that's going to give me a positive number because it was in the absolute value. So this equals 8. So that works as well. So that means both of them are correct answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and have you practice 1 and 2. So pause this video and try 1 and 2. All right, so let's check your answer. So number 1 is pretty easy. Number 2, please be careful when you split it. I'm going to write it. When you split it, make sure that you do 3x plus 2 equals the original. So that one's pretty easy. The other one, when you make it negative, that means negative of the entire thing. So please be careful on that. So the answer is minus 3 and minus 1. All right, let's ask you a interesting question. What is the answer to this? What does x equal to? The answer is no solution. So you may had found some answer that by doing the steps I showed you, you found the answer. But you really need to think to yourself, absolute value of what equals negative? Impossible. Remember, anything that comes out of an absolute value must equal positive number. There is no way that you can actually get a negative number as a result. So then even if you do solve and then you get an answer, please make sure you double check. It's not going to work. It won't give you a negative answer. So be careful of questions like this. All right, the last part is absolute value. So just a quick reminder, if you do multiply by negative number, which is when we set the absolute value inequality into two separate inequalities, then what we're going to do is we're going to remember to flip the sign, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, solving graph. First, absolute value of 2x minus 1 less than 5. So what we're going to do is the absolute value is already isolated, so we're going to just solve it. 2x minus 1 less than 5. Again, recopy the question just without the absolute value. The second one, 2x minus 1 greater than. So I changed the sign because I'm going to make this negative. So when I make something negative, I have to also change the inequality sign, because if I don't, this whole question will be inconsistent and doesn't make any sense. All right, let's solve this. 2x less than 6, x less than 3. And here, 2x less than negative 4, greater, and then x is greater than negative 2. So let's go ahead and graph this here and here, and that's in between. So in between means I can actually rewrite it like this. Okay, and then number 2 is similar. What we're going to do is isolate the absolute value. So we get absolute value 3x minus 4 less than equal to 22. And then same thing, split it. 3x minus 4 less than equal to 22. 3x minus 4 greater than equal to negative 22. So solve that. 3x less than equal to 26. So x is less than equal to 26 over 3. Here, 3x greater than equal to negative 18. So x is greater than equal to negative 6. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our answer. So this is greater than equal to negative 6. Less than equal to 26 over 3. 26 over 3 is close to 27 over 3. 27 over 3 is 9, so this is slightly less than 9. Okay, again, it's in between, so I can actually write it as a compound inequality. All right, last one. Let's have you practice this. So you can see that there is a fraction there. Please do not distribute. Remember, distribution only works on parentheses. So this is absolute value, not a parentheses. So anyways, go ahead and pause the video, solve the problem. All right, please check your answer. So hopefully you got the answer correct.